You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3, episode number 94. Nick Madrigal, a Cub no more. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow on the socials, 670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook. You can email us at flythew670@gmail.com. All right, Crawly, so we've got a little bit of movement. The rosters are coming into focus a little bit more, and as the title says, Nick Madrigal, a Cub no more.
Yeah, every year teams have to formally tender contracts to unsigned players for the following season, including their arbitration-eligible players, by 7 p.m. Central Time, the Friday before Thanksgiving. So if a player's non-tendered, he becomes a free agent. Well, the tender deadline came and went, and there were some obvious moves and, Dustin, a few surprises. We talked last time on Tuesday. The Cubs added Owen Casey, who came over in the Yu Darvish trade, and Ben Cowles from the Mark Leiter trade to the 40-man roster. And to make rooms, they had DFA a couple guys with injury issues, Edward Alzolay and Brennan Davis. Haven't heard anything about them just yet. On Wednesday, the Cubs traded outfield prospect Alfonso Rosario to Cleveland for reliever Eli Morgan. Rosario was not on the 40-man roster, so Patrick Wisdom was designated for assignment to make room for Morgan. Also on Wednesday, the Cubs acquired Matt Thaiss from the Angels for cash, and to make room for Thaiss on the roster, Trey Wingenter was DFA'd. If you don't remember, I think he's going to be a good one for the Immaculate Grid for those of you that play, but he did play a couple games with the Cubs. They picked him up in August from the Red Sox. He only appeared in 5 games for the Cubs. So that takes us to Friday, the tender deadline. And Dustin, there was one move that was totally obvious. We knew it was coming, and the other not so much. I was at the Chicago Sports Spectacular all that weekend. We'll talk about that in segment 3, but the news started buzzing around earlier. This one was the no-brainer, if you will. Oh, Dustin, Nick Madrigal. Nick Madrigal. He was non-tendered. He is a Cub no more. We weren't surprised about this, though, right?
No, it's not surprising. I mean, it's still one of those like that. That's going to be a trade, and you wonder, like, did anybody win that trade exactly? Because that one was not good for either side, I don't think.
Right. Most times when you talk about the Cubs and the White Sox trade, somebody wins and somebody loses, right? Like when we talk about the Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez for Jose Quintana, or if you talk about Sammy Sosa for George Bell. Like there's certain things that just kind of stick in there, but this one, not so much. When you think about it, Dustin, I thought that, the Cubs really, because in 2021, right, Craig Kimbrel really had a good year. And to me, he was the best closer on the market. So I thought the Cubs were going to get a haul for him. And when they traded with the White Sox, it was Nick Madrigal. I was like, because we already had Nico Horner, right? Which is a similar,
right? The same exact kind of player, right?
Right. It made no sense. And then Cody Hewer, who was a guy that threw some heat. Now, if you remember, Kimbrel was used by Tony La Russa as a setup man for Liam Hendricks. He failed spectacularly. He was awful at that role. He was just horrible. And then the Cub got Nick Madrigal and reliever Cody Hewer. Hewer pitched in 25 games for the Cubs. Then in spring training in 2022, he had Tommy John surgery. So that was it for that. And then when he came back in 2023, he had 15 rehab appearances with the AAA Iowa Cubs before he went season-ending surgery to address an elbow fracture he suffered in the week. So they would non-tender him. And then Nick Madrigal played some second base, some third base in 2022, 23, and 24. But Dustin, he was a guy that, what was it, Nicky Two Strikes? You always, he never really was that guy, in my opinion.
No,
that we saw with the White Sox at all. He played some second. He also played third. He did an admirable job. I never thought he was going to be able to make that switch. He had to crow hop a few times, but hey, he did more than what I expected out of him. But again, when you saw that the Cubs, when they decided to put the change with the guy that they got, Ben Cowles. When they got Ben Cowles and they added him to the 40-man roster, he's another infielder. He can play second, short, and third, and he's a right-hander, and he's fast. You knew that was the end for Nick Madrigal. There's no way they were going to keep that guy. And then you also have Luis Vasquez on the 40-man, who also can play all the left side of the infield, second, short, third. Right. So there's no reason to keep him around.
No, zero. I mean, yeah, this is not stunning news at all.
No. Now, the one that did stun me, Dustin, was the next guy, Mike Tauchman, non-tendered. That to me was surprising. Were you surprised by that at all?
A little bit. Yeah. That I am surprised about. Yeah.
You know, when you think about Tauchman and what he was, fourth outfielder, and I saw all these people on social media, they're like, oh, you're going to let the young kids play. No, you're not going to let the young kids play. You're not going to sit them on a bench. You just aren't. So you're going to have to find a different guy, but it's not going to be a young stud. The only way you're going to see whether it's Kevin Alcantara or Owen Casey or any of those guys is if one of the starters get injured. That's it. At that point, one of those guys would come up. And so when you talk about Tauchman, he signed with the Cubs in 2023. He played an important role in the Cubs playoff push. You remember that Cody Bellinger got injured in Houston, right, in the summertime? And he kind of came in June, and he hit 226, which is no big deal. But in July, he slashed 279, 341, 468. And that's when the Cubs, that July push, you remember they had that run against the White Sox and the Cardinals, and they were able to go from 10 under to going 10 to being even. And that's the one that Jed Hoyer decided not to sell after they made that run. Mike Tauchman was a big part of that. And you remember he capped off that magical month by robbing Alec Burleson of a game-winning home run.
Yes.
That was one of the highlights of the season, and flexing and all that stuff. He didn't do much in 2024, but the one thing he could do, Dustin, is he was a left-handed bat, and he was really good. He had really good at-bats, right? He would take a lot of pitches. The guys behind him would see a lot of pitches. He could walk. It's just, here's the thing. They have projections of what these guys are going to make in arbitration, and Tauchman was projected to make $2.9 million. So, $3 million, maybe you can find a guy that can have that same skill set for half the cost.
Yeah, but it's a lot of penny pinching to me in that situation.
I don't disagree with you, because that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like, think about it too. Like, what if they do trade Cody Bellinger, which everyone keeps, that was kind of the buzz all week, right? So what if you do trade Cody Bellinger? You're going to bring you'll bring a young kid up, but you're going to want some
again, or Owen Casey, right? Now we go back to that what we talked about last week, right? Or Owen Casey,
right? But then you
don't want him sitting,
right? I would still have a veteran presence behind him with a guy like Tauchman, right?
Right.
So, right. I mean, if there's a really difficult left-hander or something, you put Tauchman in there that day or something, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Owen Casey would definitely start in that situation, but who's your backup? Who's your veteran backup guy? Yep. And so that would just be my question, I guess. But that's it. So Tauchman is gone. Now the Cubs did tender contracts to Justin Steele, Isaac Paredes, Eli Morgan, and Nate Pearson. So all that means right now, Dustin, is that the Cubs and those players will exchange numbers on a contract. So Cubs have their idea of what they should think of, and the players and their agent have their numbers, and they have to try to agree to a contract in January. Or in January is when they're going to start exchanging numbers. And then you want to get this done by spring training, ideally. As when you look at this, according to Spot Track, which has all the estimations online, Justin Steele is looking to make $7,950,000. So that's the projection. Now the Cubs may go under, he may go over, but that's roughly what he should be making. Isaac Paredes is scheduled to make $6,280,000. Nate Pearson, $1,250,000. And Eli Morgan, who the Cubs just traded for, should make $945,000. So he's not, Eli's not really going to cost you a lot.
No.
Now, Dustin, the Cubs agreed to 1-year deals with Keegan Thompson, Matt Thaiss, and Julian Merryweather to avoid arbitration. So they're not even going to go into arbitration. They already got a contract. Now, Merryweather was one of those guys, Dustin, in 2023, when you talked about it. That was when you had Merryweather, Leiter, and Alzolay. Boom, boom, boom. And they were closing it out. And they were projected to be, the guys that were going to be the 7, 8, 9 in 2024. And now Leiter's traded to the Yankees. Alzolay's DFA'd, and Merryweather's just on a 1-year deal. That it's just one of those things, Dustin, where you look at it, you cannot depend on Merryweather, right? Like he was injury prone. He just has to be one of those guys that you hope has a bounce back season, right?
Right.
I mean, but the trouble the Cubs had is they had those three guys and then nothing really behind them. And that's why it really kind of took a long time. The numbers that we have for Merryweather is 1,225,000 for the 25 season. So again, the guy throws heat, but we'll see what happens. Keegan Thompson, if you remember, Keegan Thompson really had a breakout year in 2022. 2023, he really struggled. And then 2024, he kind of bounced back. He had a 2.67 ERA in 24 games. So you figure Keegan will have some sort of opportunity there. He's going to make $850,000 in the 2025 season. And then finally, Matt Thaiss, who's they acquired from the Angels. They signed him as a backup catcher. Again, if this guy is your backup catcher, I still think that they're going to be looking for somebody else. I don't think he's going to be.
That can't be the guy.
No,
that can't be the guy.
He's going to make $1 million flat. So I think he's just definitely a piece where you're looking at as far as just a depth piece that if something were to happen to Amaya and the backup catcher, then Thaiss would come up there. But remember, Amaya had some injury problems too. Last year was really one of the first years in a long, long time that he was healthy. But Dustin, right now, as we take a look here today, the Cubs 40-man roster has 38 players right now, 38 players. And so, if you look at the outfielders, it's Suzuki, Happ, Armstrong, Alexander Canario from the Chris Bryant trade, Owen Casey from the Yu Darvish, Cody Bellinger, and Kevin Alcantara from the Anthony Rizzo trade. So you got three young studs in there, two righties, and Alcantara and Canario. Canario's more of a polished, finished product. And then you got Casey, who's the left-hander. Infielders, you got Bush, Ben Cowles, who again can play all the positions. Nico, Miles Mastrobuoni's still here. He's a left-hander, so that's different from Cowles. Matt Mervis is still on the 40-man roster. I wonder how long that's going to stick around. Isaac Paredes, Dansby Swanson, and Luis Vasquez. Luis Vasquez, a plus defender at all positions. But, if the Cubs make multiple moves, when I look at Matt Mervis, I'm kind of like, You think, I don't know if some team would pick him up, maybe take a flyer on it. Catchers, they got Amaya and Thaiss. And then when you take a look at the pitchers, you got your five starters, but you got Michael Arias, Javier Assad, Ben Brown, Porter Hodge, Gavin Hallwell, Caleb Killian, Luke Little, Julian Merryweather, Tyson Miller, Eli Morgan, Jack Neely, Daniel Palencia, Nate Pearson, Ethan Roberts. You got Keegan Thompson, Hayden Wisniewski, Jordan Wicks, and Rob Zastryzny. So two guys that could, there's two spots. And again, I think that if the Cubs make some moves, some other guys may be gone from the 40-man roster.
Yeah, it's something that's not definitely set in stone. There's no doubt about that. There's going to be some. This is not the final roster we're going to see when the Cubs open up the season in Japan. There is no doubt about that. This is episode 94 of season number 3 of the Fly the W670 podcast. Do us a favor, leave us one of those 5-star reviews and email us, flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. In this segment, Crawly talks to Cubs reliever Porter Hodge about being called up to the show, closing games out, and being part of the combined no-hitter over at Wrigley Field.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, we are welcome to have back Cubs reliever Porter Hodge. Porter, how you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, last time we had you, I had to look it up. It was in August of 2022. You were with the South Bend Cubs.
It was that long ago?
Yeah, you were South Bend.
Dang.
And so hard to believe, but since then you've had just kind of an amazing run there. That was 2022, 2023, you play for the Tennessee Smokies, all good. And then this year in 2024, you finally get the call to the show. So I got to ask you, Porter, did you kind of have any inkling that you were about to get called, or did you have no idea?
It was kind of like, I don't know. It was a weird situation because I had a feeling, because usually down in AAA, you pitch 2 innings every outing, and it'd be very rare you pitch 1 inning. So I was expected to go out for another inning, but then I didn't. And then Marty PV, I don't know why I said Buddy.
They kind of got a little similarity. I get it.
No, yeah. Marty came up to me and he's like, "You're done." I was like, "Huh, all right." So then I going into the locker room, getting ready, whatever, and he's like, he wants to come talk to me, and so like I go talk to him, and like I was like, "Is this it?" Like, because like he doesn't really call me in, you know. And so then he calls me in his office, and he's just like talking to me about this at bat. I kind of like I threw the wrong pitch or whatever, and he's like, "My wife could have hit that." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, "All right, like, am I done here?" And then I went back to the hotel and like chilling there for like 30 minutes, and then he called me. I was like, all right, this is what it is. So,
And so you get the call, and who's the first person instantaneously that you tell? Who's the first person you have to tell?
I can't remember. I think it was my mom I called, I think, and then my dad, one of the two, but obviously my parents.
So obviously they're excited. You get over to Wrigley Field. Was that the first time you'd ever been to Wrigley Field?
Yeah, I mean, I've been back in 22 when I was on the podcast. That was the year my first time going to Chicago is what that year. So other than that, I just saw the outside of it and didn't go in.
And so you get to go inside, and what were your initial impressions the first time you laid your eyes on Wrigley Field?
I mean, I laid my eyes. Actually, I lied. When we were at Cubs Con, we had like a little camp there. So like that was really like my first time feasting eyes on it. But like you didn't really know what Wrigley looked like because they have that winter wonderland there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I didn't really like see it, but like you know what it looks like. But it was really cool to see like what it looked like, all green and with the ivy. So I fell in love with it for sure.
Packed house, all of that. And so you get to Wrigley and the locker room. I mean, I can't even tell you what the locker room used to look like before the renovations, but the locker room is just unbelievable. So I'm just curious, how do they determine as far as where your locker is? Does the clubby kind of just say, okay, you get this locker right here?
Yeah, I mean, you just show up and then your name. Well, I didn't have a name on my plaque yet, so they just put my number up, and I was like, "Oh, I guess this is my locker."
And so you're sitting there, you get called up, and tell us a little bit, like as far as how that goes. Like, do they start asking you about like, okay, what song do you want to walk out to? What are some of the questions that you have to kind of go through this process as you're going into the major leagues?
Yeah, I mean, they ask you what you want. Do they want what your walkout want to be? And just like I don't know, wasn't really a lot of questions yet because I didn't debut yet. So like once I debuted, that's when like more people started asking questions and getting into depth about things because like I don't know, they just didn't want to bother me, I guess, when I first got up there.
Did you know what you wanted your walkout song to be?
I chose a Wiz Khalifa song because that's kind of just what I had in AA when I started the year this year, and then I just kept it. I was like, might as well. So
On my level, right? It was good luck. You can't switch it up, right?
Yeah, can't switch it up.
So you debut May 22nd. You pitch an inning. You don't give up a hit, a run, nothing like that. But when you're sitting in the bullpen, and it, see, the old days, it was great because the bullpen was it was on the third base line. Like you literally have the fans right next to you. It was ridiculous. But you're kind of in that little pen. How into the game are you while you're sitting in there? What do you guys do to pass the time?
I mean, I like to move around a lot. You know, I do like a little breathing exercise. So it's just like, you know, when to start moving around, like you watch the game for the first 3 innings and then you start doing your routine to get ready to obviously get your name called or not. So like it goes by fast and next thing you know, you got somebody moving around or whatever. So get the adrenaline pumping for sure.
So you get called out. You're the first time they tell you, all right, get up. I'm sure you probably had butterflies. Your debut was at Wrigley Field against the Braves. What do you remember about those doors swinging open the first time and running to the mound?
It was a night game, so it's like definitely a cool feeling. Packed house. But I mean, going into the game, it's just like definitely a cool feeling. Like finally, like you reach your dreams, you know, dreams come true. So it's just like so relieving to be a part of history. And obviously, because like there's very minimal people that get to do what we do, you know.
And so you're sitting there, you get on the mound, and who do you think was really like, obviously I'm sure you're a baseball fan and maybe you play MLB The Show. Do you play MLB The Show?
I don't play any video games, sadly.
Is there anybody that you started facing those first couple times out where you almost like couldn't believe, like, hey, I watched that guy on TV. I struck that guy out in MLB The Show. Is there someone that really was like a pinch me moment that you're facing this guy?
So what I view is like, yeah, like you got to respect those players, but like I feel like if you treat it as like, oh dang, like it's this so and so, it's just like it kind of like sets you back mentally. So it's just like, I don't know, sets the at bat differently, your mentality wise. So it's just like I like to think as like they're another hitter or whatever. Like I'm just there to do my job. But it was definitely cool to like face some of the players I faced, like Matt Olson, Marcell Ozuna, and Ozzy Albies, like just like watching them like dominate the league. So it was definitely cool.
And so you get to do all this. It's a lot of fun. And what was it like as far as comparing, say, travel? Will you try minor league travel versus major league travel? Has to be night and day.
I mean, yeah, you can't really compare it. You know, you're driving on buses compared to flights. So
yeah, and then I always see when the buses leave the stadium and you guys are going off to the road trip and stuff like that. And to me, one of the really cool things, Porter, is that just watching as you guys developed over there, watching the young talent at the minor league level. It really seemed like the season kind of, the bullpen was really in flux that first, April, May, kind of there. It just wasn't there. And then all of a sudden you get called up, Ben Brown gets called up, a bunch of the young guys kind of come in there and solidified the rotation. How easy was it for you to kind of get along with all the other guys in the bullpen as far, I'm sure you knew some of them and other guys were veteran presence. How does that kind of work as the bullpen kind of gels together and you guys start getting more successful?
Yeah, like I think a lot of us I feel like a lot of the guys are pretty nice, very well rounded. A lot of us get along, but I would say like once a good group of us have more success, I feel like a lot of the guys can feed on that. So that once that starts going, it's just like I feel like it becomes a well-oiled machine, because like I mean you just need to pass the torch to the next guy, and like if he gets banged up here and there, like so be it. Like the next guy's got to get shut it down or whatnot,
And as far as you're concerned, when you're in that moment and you don't really care about the role at the time, right? Do you just say, give me the ball when they call me, when they call for me, my number, that I just go in there. I don't care if it's 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, at that point, like you're just there to get outs, get the team rolling in the right direction, even if you're down or up, whatever. Like keep the momentum going in your direction, or like try and get the guys off the field as soon as possible. Now,
do you remember the first time you were called upon to save a game?
It was, I mean, I didn't know it was a safe situation, honestly. But it was because it was the extra innings game in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had no clue, obviously, but yeah, that was, that was my first save.
When did you find out that it was your first save? Did they give you the scorecard? Did they give you a ball? What did they do? Anything?
Yeah, I got the scorecard. Well, like, I can't remember who, but when I came in, they're just like, "Congrats on your first save." I was like, "That was my save? Like what?" Because I just didn't know,
And you really, you just got to be focused every time that you go out there. And then towards the end of the season, like, Craig Counsell's new manager, obviously for you, a new manager for everyone this year. Is there a kind of a feeling that you get like, okay, I think this guy's kind of trusting me. He's giving it in more high leverage situations?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of got to read in between the lines, like you're pitching ever so like it's a close game, like you've been pitching every close game, so it's just like kind of when to get ready mentally and whatnot. Like if you see a dude struggling, like we're up by 4 runs and he's got bases on, like it's the 7th, 8th inning, like you can kind of tell,
Yeah. And as far as Tommy Hotovy goes, I mean, he's kind of legendary. He goes out there, he's like the pitcher whisperer. Whatever he says, it usually works. What's it like having Tommy Hotovy there to kind of help you out and talk to you through some things?
Yeah, Tommy's a real I mean, he's a very understandable guy and it's easy to talk to him. So it's just like that relationship definitely helps, like him coming out, if whatnot, like being comforting, whatnot, like telling you what to do, like just trying to get you in the right direction is definitely having that relationship helps. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
That's all right. And so as you're sitting there right there and you're the new guy in the bullpen and you got to carry the backpack out and all that stuff. Was there a veteran that was kind of really helpful that kind of you could talk to, bounce ideas off of, that kind of showed you the ropes a little bit?
Yeah, I'd say before Mark got traded, probably Mark Leiter. or Hector Neris. Neris was a good example of like how to not let the game affect the way you act in the locker room. Because like you wouldn't even notice, like sometimes he had obviously he had a bad outing and just like, oh, he's like happy and whatnot. So it's just like being able to flush it and move on. Like he even told me that it's just like, so what? Like you got plenty more opportunities coming up. Like don't dwell on it. Like especially being a reliever, like you got to be ready for the next day, you know?
All right, I'm going to take you back a little bit, and this one will always haunt me because I had tickets to the game and I didn't go. September 4th, Cubs versus Pirates. Shota Imanaga is on the bump, and I don't know if you saw this with Paul Skeens the other day when they were doing the MLB All Team, where Shota asked him how he threw his fastball, his grip, stuff like that. Do you ever do that? Do you ever ask other pitchers about their grips or how they, as from other teams? I thought that was weird that Shota asked Skeens that.
I've never really asked that, no.
So they're sitting there, and Shota's in there, and and he has a no hitter going. And from there, it goes to Nate Pearson's the first guy out of the pen, and he doesn't understand why everybody's booing him.
Yeah.
So he said he didn't know that there was a no hitter going on. I mean, that had to have been crazy. How about you? When you got your call to close it out, did you have any idea?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had an idea for sure because it was like the fifth inning or whatnot, and we're in the bullpen, and like the TV pops up, and like the little like score box pops up, and like it says no hits, obviously, and so I look over to Nate, and you know the saying, like you don't say anything about it, whatever, and I look over at him and I start smiling, and then I look over at Cassie, at the bullpen catcher, and he knows why I'm looking over. So I just start laughing, and he starts laughing. So it's just like we kind of know, and then obviously Nate didn't know, but I did.
And so you sit there and you get the call and you're out there. Is there any different feeling, like knowing that the no-hitter's on the line when you came out to that mound?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, probably a little more pressure, but it's just like it kind of gave me more of an adrenaline rush, you know? It was definitely a good feeling, in my opinion. I loved it.
And so you know, the first guy you got up, former Cub Billy McKinney, right?
Yeah.
You get him out. Then Nick Gonzalez, that's at number 2. And then all of a sudden, O'Neal Cruz, who as a Cub fan, I don't know. Every time he just always, I mean, he's just such a big dude, capable of getting big hits. I'm just like, oh God, of all the guys to, have to face last with the no hitter, it's on the ground and it goes to Dansby Swanson. And as a pitcher, you just got to love having Dansby behind you, right?
I think Dansby got all 3 outs. I'm pretty sure also.
Yeah. And so you do that. What was it like afterwards as far as the media attention and all that?
It was super cool. Like I've never been in that little media room before, so it's just like seeing all those experiences, like all the people coming up and like congratulating me. It was super cool.
And now it's funny because, you guys are all connected for that. So everyone's trying to get the no-hitter balls, the no-hitter pictures and all that stuff. So I'm sure you got the date down and you know how to write it every time now because people are asking, right?
Yeah, especially at those signings.
Yeah, and you just did a couple signings. I know you were down at our friends at Bricks and Ivy at Hoopston and stuff like that. What is it like for you to have all these people kind of coming out and asking for your autographs?
It's cool, like just to see all the Cubs supporters and like all the people that, like you wouldn't expect to have a lot of people show up or whatnot, and like all the fan base. So it's like it's definitely cool to see.
And so now you're sitting here and it's the off season, and obviously you guys fell a little bit short of your goal. But to me, when I watched the season, the one thing I was looking at more than anything were the young guys. And I felt like, whether it was you, whether it was Luke Little, whether it was Ben Brown, a lot of these guys are really kind of coming up and there's more on their way, right?
Oh yeah. Like, I feel like, they just got to trust the young talent. We got a lot of prospects. And so it's just like, once we're able to get all the young guys up, I feel like we have a lot of potential coming our way.
So the season ends, they sit down and talk to you. What kind of off-season plan do they really talk about, like what they want you to do as far as to get ready for next season?
I just like keeping on my routines, keeping on top of my stuff, not letting off what I have going, like my momentum going. So it's just like just being who I am. I'm a worker. I like to work hard. I hate taking days off. So it's just like it's just how I am. So just keep me on that grind.
And do you guys keep in touch with your teammates in the off season?
I mean, I'm down in Arizona, and I know a few guys are there. So yeah, I see a lot of the guys on the daily.
So as you're sitting here and you're watching free agency and all this stuff going on, do you kind of, obviously the Cubs recently just got a new bullpen arm and there's just a lot of moves. Do you kind of pay attention to it, or are you not really worry about it until spring training comes around?
I mean, yeah, I see it pop up, but it's just like, I don't know if it affects me or not. It is what it is if it does. So.
And then you'll obviously be at Cubs convention. You've been at Cubs convention before. What do you think of Cubs convention and the fan reaction to you guys?
There's a lot of people that pop out. That's for sure. It's a cool thing to be a part of, and it's a cool atmosphere, I would say. Just like all the ethnicities, like people from everywhere coming to Chicago to see us.
And the roar when they call your name, man, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Porter, I appreciate you jumping on with me today. We just wanted to kind of touch base, and you are the first person I ever interviewed that went from the minors that broke through the majors. So congratulations on that, man. We are all super proud of you and appreciate everything you do, and wish you nothing but the best in 2025.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
This is season 3, episode 94 of the Fly the W670 podcast. Nick Madrigal, a Cub no more. All right, Crawly, it's time to go around the bases and get a couple of news and notes, not only on the Cubs.
All right. So the Cubs weren't the only. Oh, I did go to the Chicago Sports Spectacular this weekend. I do want to thank everybody that stopped by, said hello, had some kind words about the show. It was started off a little bit slow, Dustin. I'm not going to lie, a little disappointed. Friday night, Wilson Contreras cancels. Like literally, I am parking my car and I get the email, Wilson Contreras cancels. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So no good, but that kind of just has me a little bit nervous. But Chris Bryant was there Saturday. So I got a picture with Chris Bryant, and
he managed to get a ride after his Lambo was stolen, right?
Yep, he did get there. I did not bring that up with them, but man, you know what? I know all the things that happened and where he is now and all this stuff, but that picture of him getting that ball from Mike Martinez, kind of slipping and making that throw to third and smiling as he throws it to Rizzo. That to me is always going to be one of the greatest memories of my entire life. And, to see him, to thank him, to get a couple items autographed was just phenomenal to see him. It was just great. So that was my Saturday. Sunday, I got autographs from Ryan Sandberg. I saw him. He looks great. This was his first public signing since the cancer diagnosis. Okay. So he looked really, really good. Andre Dawson, the Hawk, always looks ready, man. Looks tough. Sean Dunston was there at the Chicago Sports Spectacular for the first time in 15 years. So it's been a while since he's been there. He was at Club 400 last year, but he hasn't really done a lot of public signings. So it's awesome to have Shawan back out there. And then I got autographs from Billy Williams as well. So it was a busy, busy weekend, but a fun one at Rosemont.
Very cool.
Now we got some other non-tenders. The Cubs were not the only team to non-tender players. There's now, Dustin, 62 new free agents in MLB. The Cubs did have the most, though, with 6, followed by the Braves at 5. But I looked at some of the names on there, Dustin. I kind of laughed. Former Cub Brandon Hughes. He was a lefty reliever for the Cubs. You remember him?
I do. I remember that.
Non-tendered by the Diamondbacks. Another former Cub lefty, Richard Lovelady, a.k.a. Dick Lovelady, was also non-tendered. He by the Rays. I didn't really see a lot in that pile of guys that were non-tendered. Anyone that I would really want to be going after. The only one that I was kind of interested in is Jordan Romano. He was the Blue Jays closer from 2021 to 2023. He had 95 saves. He posted a 2.37 ERA in that time, 11.1 strikeouts per 9. But he struggled in 2024. He had a 6.59 ERA, 15 appearances. He had to have season-ending arthroscopic surgery on his throwing elbow in July. But he's out there. So that to me is one that, would you maybe want to take a flyer?
I could get talked into it.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, and I think this may change your mind, Dustin. The Milwaukee Brewers are kicking the tires on that one. And so if they are kicking the tires on Romano, they got Devin Williams, who's going to probably be gone. And so they're going to – I know this is one of those guys that the Brewers are just going to pick up, and miraculously the guy's going to be an all-star. That's my opinion.
Well, that's how they do things, right? Yeah.
Right. So let's beat him. Let's get this guy. And that way, we get the little bonus there, right? Now, Mike Napoli, the Reds have hired Mike Napoli for an unspecified role in the organization. Obviously, Napoli was let go this year. He was a quality assurance coach for the Cubs and then a first base coach under David Rossi before he was let go this year by Craig Counsell. Dustin, what do you think about Terry Francona going to the Reds?
All right, it's great for them. I mean, listen, Terry Francona knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I think this is a guy who takes a team, to the next spot, right? He's not going to hold them back. I don't think he takes that job just to take the job, right? So I think he sees something there, and I think he's the guy that takes you to the next step.
They had a lot of injuries last season, and they had a really good young team. I thought they were going to finish first. They were really beat up. They lost a lot of guys early, and they never really recovered. But like you said, this is a guy where you have Tony Francona who's going to come in, and he's going to have a lot of talented young players, and he's going to get the best out of him. You remember, though, that connection between Francona and Napoli. Napoli played under Francona for the 2016 Indians team that lost to the Cubs in the World Series. Napoli hit 239, 335, 465 with 34 home runs as Cleveland's everyday first baseman DH. You remember the T-shirts they had all over in Cleveland, Party at Napoli's?
Yeah, Party at Napoli's, yeah.
Speaking of Party at Napoli's, take a look at what I just got from Cubs Authentic. This is Mike Napoli's City Connect helmet.
Oh.
So look at that, huh?
How'd you get that?
It's through Cubs Authentics. It goes to Cubs Charities. And there's the, for those of you watching on the YouTube channel, nice little, I literally got it on Friday. So it has the MLB authentication program. So I love these helmets, Dustin. I love the way that this helmet looks. So I had to get me one.
That's cool. Nice.
So,
nice score.
Mike Napoli. There we go. Premier 12. Dustin, we have been kind of paying attention to this because of Matt Shaw's involvement with this. On Friday, Team USA beat Venezuela 6-5 on a go-ahead home run by Ryan Ward to advance to the medal round. Matt Shaw was 2 for 5 with 2 more RBIs. And so that put the team in the medal round, Dustin. And again, they had to face Venezuela a second time. This time they beat them 6-1 comfortably to win the bronze medal. Shaw was 0 for 2, but he did have 3 walks. He finished 3rd in the tournament in hits, tied for 3rd in home runs, 1st in RBIs and total bases. This was John Morosi, who was in Japan. He said, Cub fans, I can report that Matt Shaw is putting on an impressive defensive clinic at third base in Tokyo today. So now, Dustin, my question is he able to play third, right? Well, Morosi says he looks pretty darn good there. Now, he didn't hit for a ton of power, but we know that power is there somewhere. He's still a young kid. He's still got to put muscle on, grow into his body, all of those things that you look at when you look at at a young kid like that. But that's something that you really kind of think about when you look at what the future holds for Matt Shaw. Is it going to be at second base or is it going to be at third?
Yeah.
And would you say prefer to keep Nico at second and then put Shaw at third?
Right. But what about Paredes?
Paredes can be a backup, right? I mean, you're not paying him a whole ton of. I mean,
that'd be a lot of money. It'd be a lot of. That's pretty good backup money. That's pretty good backup money, Crawly.
Here's what I would tell you, Dustin. I would sit there and let Shaw start at Iowa this year, and then take a look at the trade deadline and see if Shaw's ready. And if he's ready, see if you can make a trade for Paredes, and then you got something here. Just so people know, Shaw also made the All-World team as a third baseman, so he was considered the best third baseman in the tournament. Speaking of the tournament, Dustin, at the end, a stunner, a huge upset. Chinese Taipei beats the formidable Japanese team 4-0 in the gold medal game. So I know you got some friends over at Circa Resorts. If you would have put some money down on Chinese Taipei to beat Japan in the gold medal game, I think you could have cleaned house on that one.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a pretty big shocker there.
Yeah, it was a total upset. Japan, obviously the home country. They're playing in the Tokyo Dome in front of anyone. I don't know if that caused a lot of pressure. I mean, Japan crushed the U.S. On the other, Wednesday, Thursday last week. So it was, to see Chinese Taipei, like I'm not even sure who the great Chinese Taipei players are, but that's something now that's the point of these kind of things like the Premier 12 and the World Baseball Classic and having the baseball in the Olympics is that, maybe Chinese Taipei, maybe there's some country that's going to be the next hot spring of talent.
Yep. Right. You never know. Hopefully all that talent, Crawly, will end up on the Cubs. Let's just hope, whoever they are, wherever they are, let's hope they all end up in Chicago. Crawly, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And don't forget, you can email us, flythew670gmail.com, and watch us by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, have a great start of your week as we enter into Thanksgiving, and we'll get together real soon.
Yes, sir. And hopefully, like I said, the Cubs will keep making some moves. That hot stove heating up. Go Cubs. Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!